But before all that, 1 month after the far-right violence across England, people living in towns all over the country are still trying to understand how and why they happened. In the first in our series, After the Riots, our investigations editor, Daniel Hewitt, went to the small Staffordshire town of Tamworth, where a hotel housing asylum seekers was besieged by a violent mob. We spoke to some of those who witnessed the scenes that night, both locals and asylum seekers who feared for their lives. Residents told ITV News that although they were appalled by the violence, they do have concerns about immigration and feel they aren't being listened to.
I've lived here for 41 years and never seen anything like that before in my life.
Fire and fury in a quiet English market town.
We were expecting it to come to Tamworth just because we knew that immigrants were in the Holiday Inn Express.
This is the story of Tamworth, where tension turned to terror in a moment.
We thought they would definitely kill us.
On the night, baying mobs claimed the streets.
There was a coming together. Yes, because he won the ball and planted his foot, and then he...
The Sport and Social is a place for debate about football, darts and life in Tamworth. The riots are now a part of this town's story, and we've come here to find out how it happened and why. Wayne is a security guard.
They're a bunch of idiots.
He'd been working near the Holiday Inn where asylum seekers were being housed when he heard of the attacks. He went down, he tells us, to help stop the rioters and to face their wrath. So you were there that night?
Yeah, and there was a young blonde police officer, and she had a riot helmet on. If it was 2 foot further this way, it would have hit me in the head. I don't wear riot gear, but it hit her smack on the helmet. I did feel intimidated.
Were you surprised it happened in Tamworth?
With the amount of asylum seekers they've got, no. But the way I see it is people were just jumping on the bandwagon.
What is your view broadly on immigration?
Cut it. Look after our own before anybody else. The immigrants come in here and they're held high, more higher than guys that fought for the country. Sleeping rough on the streets. There's a couple in Tamworth that I know.
And you really think that people who come here are getting a better deal than people who live here already?
100%. Yeah.
And in what way do you think that's happening? What evidence do you kind of have for that, do you think?
Just by what the governments have turned around and said. They get food, they get housing allowance, you name it.
On the evening of Sunday, August the 4th, what was advertised on Facebook as a protest spiralled into a siege. We understand around 180 asylum seekers were inside the hotel. For those outside, they tried everything to get in. Then came the petrol bombs. Whatever this town's grievances, this was nothing more than a manic mob of naked hate. Inside, asylum seekers could only watch from their windows, surrounded, helpless. In this video shared with us by One, you can hear the chaos as smoke rose from the fire below. These 3 men from war-torn Sudan, Syria and Iraq have agreed to speak for the first time about that night, their identities hidden for fear of repeat. Did you think, what are they going to do if they get in?
I felt it was so close to happening. I was terrified. I felt like they were coming for us in the hotel and into our rooms. We expected the worst. We feared for our lives, especially when they broke into the hotel and reached the first floor. We thought, that's it, we're dead.
How are you feeling now about the UK, about the people here, about staying here?
I always believed Britain to be a great, safe and a peaceful country. However, when I arrived, the reality was so different from what I imagined. That made me wish I were dead. We escaped wars and death in our countries, only to find similar troubles here as well.
They've all now been moved out of Tamworth, where for 2 years this, the town's largest hotel, next to its most popular attraction, the Snowdome Leisure Centre, has been taken over by the Home Office to house asylum seekers. In a nearby cafe,
what they did was horrendous.
Caroline tells me the hotel became a symbol of frustration and unfairness for many before local concerns were hijacked by hate.
When we've got a lad who sleeps homeless round the corner in farm foods, and he's been there for weeks and weeks, but you think, you know, if it can be done for lots of other people, why could it not be done for him? It just seems to be, when you look at that situation and that situation, you think, wow.
And in the park behind the hotel, John and Dawn, who've lived in Tamworth for decades, tell me it's what others think as well.
Do you think there's an element of racism to it?
I think there's some jealousy, possibly, that they're all in hotel over there and they're all being looked after.
I don't necessarily agree with them being put up in hotels and everything being paid for them, but we're all human at the end of the day. That's how I look at it. Everyone deserves a life.
People who have been very vocal about the hotel have condemned the actions.
Lee Bates runs a charity supporting the asylum population here and says myth and rumour have made them an easy target.
We're in a cost of living crisis and people are struggling. The concern is if they're in a hotel, they're being looked after, etc. And the reality is quite different. You know, there's 3 people to a room, you know, they're not having access to bar facilities or, you know, any of those luxuries. They haven't been allowed to work and, you know, they get £8.40 a week from the government. So I think the perception's different to the reality.
Nothing can truly explain what happened here on a night which so far has seen 63 arrests and 25 charges brought by police. What is left is an empty hotel and a town still full of unease.
Well, Daniel is still in Tamworth tonight. Daniel, you spent some time in the town now, a few weeks. What is the feeling there now, a month after, and what happens next?
Well, for everyone we've spoken to here, they have been clear. The shock of the level of violence and destruction that took place here a month ago, they have condemned it in no uncertain terms. But there has been, Mary, a debate here for the last couple of years about the use of this hotel for those seeking asylum. And for some people in this town, they feel that their concerns weren't listened to, they weren't consulted, there was a lack of information, a lack of communication. And in that vacuum, there has been filled misinformation and myth and rumour, and that has caused damage on both sides, and that is no good for anyone in this situation. What happens next? Well, right now this hotel is empty. There is a question for the Home Office over whether this hotel is safe for asylum seekers to return. Whatever happens next, there's a sense of unease in this town, and no one wants to see a repeat of what happened here on August the 4th.
Daniel Hewitt in Tamworth, thank you. And you can read more on Daniel's special report on our website, and that's itv.com/news.